There's so much potential for everyday objects to transform into something incredible. It's a constant battle between inspiration and execution, but therein lies this beauty that I'm always searching for, to find meaning in the mundane corners of life. I never know how the final piece is going to turn out, so I've learned to be comfortable with not being in control of the situation, which is good practice for real life. Art is an escapism for me, but this feeling can also be shared with the viewer. I think the main purpose of art is to help people have a fuller experience of life. Composition is something I feel intuitively, and knowing how to balance an image so it feels in harmony. Like I always say, it's about finding the simplest way to make the biggest possible impact. I always start by looking around the house or on the street to find things I can create with. I think it's important to remember that you don't need to spend lots of money to make art, and you don't need to stress about having the perfect equipment. Everything you need is already around you. When I do buy materials, it's usually from somewhere like a supermarket or hardware store. I've had some strange looks when I go to the checkout with a basketball, tub of ice cream and a pack of condoms. My interest in art began when I was a very young child. I drew all the time at home and at school, but I was mostly concerned with cartoons and comic books. My first success as an artist was winning a competition to have a cartoon published in a national magazine when I was just 7 years old. I won this huge box of toys and thought, wow, this is the life for me. During high school, I lost interest in making visual art and became obsessed with producing music instead. My love of music caused me to start collecting a large amount of CDs and records, which in turn exposed me to thousands of album covers. Punk and jazz album covers inspired me the most, and this inspiration is the basis for a lot of my compositions in my own art. I always enjoyed the rough, DIY approach to these kind of covers that were always so graphic and bold. However, my progress with art continued, and at 15 years old, I was chosen to go on a trip to Paris where we visited the Louvre. Here I got to see Da Vinci's Mona Lisa. The Mona Lisa might not necessarily be the greatest artwork ever created, but it's certainly the most well-known. And there's something really interesting in that. Why do thousands of people from around the world flock to take photos of it every day? When I was 19, I returned to art with a year at art school. During this time, I also discovered the photocopier and used this tool to duplicate reference material and inspiration from library books that I would keep in my sketchbook. However, I realized that by moving things across the glass, you could distort them. This began a journey of experimentation with manipulating images and typography. After college, I no longer had access to a photocopier, but I found that I could achieve the same results with my printer and scanner at home. What I like about this medium is the idea of repetition and the ability to duplicate materials with ease. It's been an incredible tool of self-expression for me that has the potential to create art without the need for paint or canvas. This process also taught me to not be completely reliant on the computer. We worked only with our hands, cutting and pasting different assets we collected from books and found materials, and this experience was the basis of many of the techniques I use today. I also had a good teacher who introduced me to this book called Wabi Sabi for artists, designers, poets and philosophers. Wabi Sabi is a worldview that values the imperfect, impermanent and the incomplete. It's an appreciation of things unconventional, a way of living that focuses on peacefully accepting the natural cycle of growth and decay. This philosophy reconfirmed many things that I already believed about art and life, that there is beauty all around us, especially in the imperfections. I know the conflict is really important to this story, and the more I think about it, I'm sure it's time. I'm always struggling with my relationship with time and worrying that I have enough to sort of fulfill my potential as an artist. But then I'm always wrestling with this idea of impermanence as well, and that anything I do make is going to be forgotten about in 1,000 years, so what's the point of making any art?